Hi everyone, Richard Miller here from the depths of the studio, Forest Park, Illinois. And we've been talking to Marlies Cocheret, so Marlies, we're back.
Yay!
Yay. And this is another fun session, so that's better, you know. Let's just take our hair down and just have fun. And this is, you know, that's a real disease, isn't it? That seeking is a serious business. I think that's the main disease.
I never thought about it as a disease or main disease. Perhaps it is.
Well, disease just means dis-ease, and dis-ease just means like I want something and I never get it. So it seems frustrating. And they keep telling me it's always here. It's here right now. So then that's even more double frustrating. And so then the more serious I get, the more my little flashlight of my attention goes away from here. Mm-hmm. Goes on to my concepts of what would be a good way to work.
Yeah.
And so then that could be a good message.
Yeah. Well, it's true. A lot of people are in dis-ease. I never thought about it. It's probably a language thing. But that's kind of how we talked before, huh? We all really want to be happy. We want to be at ease. And most of us are not at ease. And how can we come to a place of ease? Because to me, that's what liberation really is to live as ease. So how do we get there?
We talked about two methods, because one, we talked about deconstructing a story of unease, you know, deconstructing a story, and the other was, we said, to meet the story. Mm-hmm. And I'll just say meet the story, you know, because in a way the story is also the feeling.
Yeah, but truly what you need to do is really rest in the place of wholeness. And then we come back again to practice, what we talked about before. Because that's how it has been for me, and I can only speak from my own experience. And I've done a lot of practice, and first a lot of active practices. You know, I was first with a teacher that we did a lot of active meditations, a lot of movement, and then there were periods where you would be frozen, you would be still. And in those places of being frozen after having been active a lot, then you get little tastes of quiet, little tastes of silence. And then for me, it was really about deepening that practice in combination with meeting anything that was in the way. So it goes hand in hand. It's this in one way, like sitting. For me, it became then a sitting practice. And in the sitting practice, just resting, you know, it's a sense of resting. Not that immediately I could rest, that was not possible. You know, first there was a lot of squirming around, and actually, I was just thinking about it. I'm just writing my newsletter, and I was just writing in this newsletter about when I realized the truth of my being. That was just a wonderful experience, of course. But then, after that, I felt like the bottom fell out. And I was just grief-stricken for months. And I barely could walk. I was just crying and crying and crying and crying. Not crying from happiness. I was just crying, like letting all the grief out that was held in. And I just couldn't keep it in anymore. So that was a part of the process of being emptied of anything that didn't belong there anymore.
So many things you're just sharing with us right now, but if I want to go back to the first thing that kind of sparked my interest is you started to say, first you did some very active practices, and then you transitioned in a way, you didn't say it exactly that way, to sitting or quiet practices. Tell us about that transition, or what happened where you didn't need the active part, or what was the active part giving you, or, I mean, tell us about that difference.
Okay, well, for me, what was really wonderful about the active part was I was always very shy, very quiet. You wouldn't hear beep out of me. I was very, I would blush, you know, for nothing. And those active practices, active movement, but also active in using your voice really helped me to come out of myself, because I felt like a prison inside. And I wanted to express myself, but I just couldn't. So for me, those so-called active meditations really helped me to shake the body open and also shake the voice open. And then there were periods of time, for instance, there would be a meditation, active meditation, where we do a lot of movement, using the voice, and then there would be a period of sitting still in that period of an hour. And then it was just 10 minutes. And those 10 minutes I could sit still. And then there was a movement after that would celebrate, that whole period of meditation of an hour. And I did that meditation, dynamic meditation, was with Osho. I did that, I think, for 2 years, every morning, standard. And it really helped me to open up. So that was very, very active. And then over time, I started attending more the sitting meditations, because then I was able to just sit still, just to rest. Could let my body rest without being squirmy or being so much in my mind. Finally, something could rest, because more ease had come, because a lot of old stuff was released, what was resting in the body. And I also know, in other traditions, for instance, Tibetan Buddhism traditions, they do not always start immediately with sitting for hours. Sometimes certain teachers start with 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It's not always good immediately to sit for an hour. And then when you sit for longer periods of time, it's really nice to do it together with other people. It's hard to sit by yourself at home immediately for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. It's a lot. When you sit, that's why we talk about Sangha, having a group of people together that are like-minded, that want to be free or enjoy sitting. It's wonderful to sit together, and then a field of awareness is being created, and then you fall in together. So after a period of active meditations, over time I still did the active meditation, but naturally they kind of fell away, and more I did more the sitting practices. And then about 15 years ago, I started to do silent retreats, where I really would sit periods of 7 days, 10 days, 5 days, and that would be some were Zen retreats, and then later with Adya. And that really helped me to ground, to really rest in the ground of being, and to really know that ground is really all there is. So when then things would bubble up of conditioning or anything that was just coloring the screen or the perception, then I would be able to completely welcome anything that would come in, because I knew it was not who I was, and at the same time I knew I needed to deal with it, because it kept me away from really, really resting. So then quite naturally more resting came in, and quite naturally more of the conditioning would fall away. And till there came time that I didn't really need to go in so much into conditioning anymore. I just could see, that's not real. I'm not going to go there anymore. I just want to rest as awareness. And then I would just sit and then wait. It was not always that I immediately could rest, but I could just sit. And then when I would sit, quality of resting would come over me, and basically awareness would come to the forefront. And then naturally I could start resting as awareness. Kind of a sense of peace would come over me, because resting as awareness is revealed as a deep sense of peace, at least in my experience. And then that peace starts deepening, and then less and less conditioning and our life story and stuff is not interesting anymore. It's not a bypassing then anymore. It's just like, I'm not going to go there anymore. I can make a choice. We can make a choice.
It's not even a choice like, I'm not going to go there. It's just like you said, it's not interesting. So why would I?
Yeah, yeah.
It's just not interesting anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, when you say rest and wholeness, I mean, wholeness is rest.
Yeah.
In a way, wholeness is rest. So then which came first, the chicken or the egg?
Yeah.
I mean, if I was whole, I'd be resting.
Right.
And you're saying, well, if you could rest, you'd be in whole.
Yeah.
I know, but I mean...
I said resting as awareness, and it is whole. It's wholeness. And wholeness is here already, And when it's not realized, what's the point? When it's realized that all that truly is wholeness, then it's kind of what we talked about before, when you can truly rest as awareness, as is wholeness, as you spoke, then that harmonizes everything in your life. That takes care of everything. Then it takes away that this part of small mind is like, oh, I need to take care of this. I need to do this. Then there's a deep knowing. Awareness takes care of everything. Awareness is my food. Awareness is my love.
That's what you experienced, you see.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then when you tell about it, of course, people say, do I need to believe that? I mean, because I do have concerns. And do I need to believe that if I just sit here for 3 hours, I could do a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
I could maybe do what I think I need to do, right?
Yeah.
Instead, you're saying, no, take an alternative course. Would just sit and rest.
Yeah.
And not necessarily 3 hours, but I
Right.
mean, and...
Well, I'm not saying you don't do anything anymore. It's just the doing comes from the being. So any doing that starts happening in your life comes from the being. And when doing comes from the being, when doing comes from that awareness, resting as awareness, comes as awareness, that doing, then that doesn't leave any traces, and that is kind of the ultimate fix. When we have a problem, whatever it is, we all kind of go out there and want to fix it, right, with our small minds. What I'm talking about is really the ultimate fix. And the ultimate fix is resting as awareness, and let any kind of doing come from awareness, from that being, and that will take care of anything.
Maybe you can tell, because maybe you can see that, okay, that kind of doing is effortless, right? If you're efforting, then it's not coming from being, right?
Yeah.
Efforting, whatever efforting is,
Right.
We could even ask, how could it work? I mean, how could it be that I'm in movement, and sometimes I'm totally interested and everything seems like it's making more energy in me, and other times it seems like I'm just totally trying to push myself through this, and it's depleting me in a tremendous way. I mean, What's the difference? Is that what effort is? Or what is effort?
That's a good question. Effort.
Because both effort and effortlessness has movement. So then the effort is not just the movement.
No, it's about letting the movement come from presence, letting any movement come from the beingness. And we're not trained that way. We're trained to immediately make movement, not even thinking, or immediately thinking, oh, that's what needs to happen. And the more we rest as awareness, the more we practice on our cushion, as I did and still do, is my experience. There is the field of awareness, this resting place, comes deeper, it comes thicker. It's like a tea bag, when you let the tea bag in. Like tea bag, we're just drinking tea here. You let the tea bag just soak and soak and soak and soak. And then you become so concentrated. This field of awareness comes so concentrated, comes so thick, so that it's not only when you have your eyes closed, it's here. It's also then here when you open your eyes, and then wherever you look, it's like, oh, here, look at this. It's beauty itself. Or when we were just driving in the car, I just see the beauty of all the colors, the colors of spring. It just stands out, that beauty. And so they're all radiating as awareness, but it can only be seen when the resting is here so deep. And then so when we talk about movement, effort, or effortlessness, first there's an effort in just learning to rest, because there's often so many layers. You know, as I spoke.
Well, impediments. There must be impediments to resting. So then we, which are like barriers, or it seems like I can't do this.
Right.
And then I'm gonna push through it. She said I could do it. You know, she said it's right here.
Yeah.
How can
And
I
sometimes that's what you need to do, because that's the natural resistance, you know, or ambivalence of mind, of small mind. And sometimes, you know, that's the fun part, and sometimes not so fun. But that's the beauty of retreat, you know, when you are together on retreat, on a silent retreat, and you're sitting together in the same space with 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 people, and you're just sitting all together. There are always people that are struggling, and there are always people that are just resting. And the whole space will harmonize itself. At a certain point you will feel that the field of awareness starts growing, starts thickening, starts deepening. And then more and more it's more easy to just rest. That's why we need Sangha. That's why we need other people. So it's easier to rest. For me, it was not easy to rest by myself. I first needed to sit in a space with other people, or what satsang gives, you know. Satsang gives that too. It's just resting together as awareness. And often, a lot of people, there's a lot of mind going on. That's why questions are being asked, and mostly from mind to free mind, so that more deeply you can rest as your true being. It's a beautiful process. So.
Sometimes I used to have formulas for these episodes or these talks, you know, and I know people like it if we just really get quiet, you know, and go aha, and then you could see us drop, and we're just glowing and all that stuff, you know. I don't know.
Yeah.
So then we can model that, and I don't know. Some people will just sink into it because we'll be the sangha, and other peoples will say that there they go and they're doing nothing again.
Yeah. Well, we can do it right now.
Yeah.
You know, for all of us, you know, here and at home, just take a moment just to close your eyes.
For sure, taking a moment is a big part of it, because like without a pause, we run.
Right.
That's the nature of mind, is to keep us running.
Busy. Yeah. Yeah. At the moment the mind becomes our servant, so to speak, then there's a resting, and we use it. You know, it's at our service then. So sometimes I ponder on, you know, before I start giving a satsang or before I meet with people, it's like, what is truly the most important that I want to convey? What is it that's been such a, for lack of another word, a help for me in my process? Because life is a process. And I feel I'm saying over and over the same thing, but to me it's really meditation and being completely dedicated to, I give my heart, I give my soul, I give everything to awareness or God or that, whatever you want to call it. You don't need to know how you need to do that. It's this sense, this utter willingness and availability. I give my heart to, you know, thy will be done. I just give
You could
myself.
even just ask how.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ask how shall I do it?
Yeah. I love to also say thy will be done, and then just, okay, thy will be done, and please show me. Or just ask questions, you know, when you sit and meditate. It's not so much about like how do I get resting as awareness. It's also wonderful to occupy your mind with a question like, who is God? What is God? What is awareness? What is love? What is sex? You know, it doesn't all matter, the question. but it helps the mind to ponder, to fill your mind up with that beauty, and then naturally it comes to resting also. Many ways that lead to Rome. So for me, the wish is that we all can wake up to our true nature and then can rest there, can put our tents there, can put our home there, and know that our food and our love comes from there. Everything comes from there. That's all there is. When we, even if you don't know it deeply yet, but just even imagining, like, just imagine that that takes care of everything. There's nothing you need to do. There's nothing you need to think about. Nothing you need to remember. Nowhere to go. Words that we have all heard, but truly, just imagine. There's nothing you need to do. Just rest here, rest as awareness, and let that voice speak. Let that show you with movement or words how life wants to move. That's really what it comes down to. It's just resting.
See, that's a good
as
emphasis right there, because let that voice speak. See, because before you were saying there's nothing you need to think about. There's nothing you need to calculate. There's nothing you need to come. And people say, wait a minute, who's going to pay?
Who's going to pay the rent?
These words are driving me to do my duties, And then then you're saying, no, let that voice come, and that voice will drive you to do your duties.
Absolutely.
So then when you trust that, little by little, you have to test it first, right?
Yeah.
So then you test it, and then gradually you can trust it. There is a voice there. Hey.
Yeah, that's why it's so important to have a practice of meditation. So you practice when you're doing pretty good. Because when there's hard times, a lot of people start like, oh, okay, really need to meditate right now. And then you're just so all over the place, it's so hard rattled, to rest. Yeah. You're rattled. But when you, on a daily basis, you wake up in the morning, and the moment you open your eyes, like, oh, sweetness is here. I'm just going to steep in the sweetness that's here, right here. When you wake up in the morning in that way, it's very different than you wake up, oh shit, I need to do this before I need to go to my work. It's just, first, even if you connect for a second to presence, connect for a second to your true being, to this one being that's resting in the midst of you. The moment you rest there in the morning, the moment you kiss that, in the morning when you're with a lover, you want to kiss your lover good morning. Kiss this lover also. This is your most innermost, what intimacy really is, your most innermost love. Just kiss that. Kiss it. It's your deepest, closest companion. It's you. So when you start your day like that, it's a whole different day, even in the midst of hardship. When you know, I have that ground, I have that connection, your day, your life will be very different. And then that can just, how do you say that, extend into a daily practice.
Does that have to be checked to be for some kind of authenticity? Because one time we were, either in this last hour or the one before, we were talking about sometimes people get into a meditation but are using it as a numbing effect.
Yeah.
A numbing effect, and using it as an escape. Oh my God, I'm rattled, I got to go sit.
Yeah.
And then somehow, I don't know whether they're really kissing their being or whether they're just kind of pulling the shades down,
Yeah.
But can you talk around that a little?
We all do that. I definitely had a period that I numbed. I was not aware of it. Or I had a period where I did anything not to feel anything. Because I thought that's how it was supposed to be. If I feel not so much and, I don't get so rattled, then I can have some control. And that's all false control. It's, when numbing happens, when you become aware that when you sit down, you're actually numb, when you notice that, you just need to experience the numbing. And then it can open up. You know, it takes a willingness. It takes a willingness
So even meet that. You know, because like
Absolutely.
the numbing is designed so you don't meet something,
Yeah,
right? So now you're saying, okay, we'll meet that numbness. And it's a little
absolutely.
hard to do because people say, well, how does it feel? Well, it feels numb, you know. I don't feel it, you know,
No, but
basically.
when you stay with that numb feeling, then you really notice it's a sensation and something that's almost like something that covers your whole body. And then you can feel the quality of thinking. There's kind of a deadness to it. It's definitely not alive. And then you can ask yourself, like, what is this? What is this? I just completely gonna receive that. I'm gonna take the time to receive this numbness. There's a reason this numbness is here. I just gonna take it to heart. And that's part of the learning, you know, to learn to take all of you, all the parts of you to heart. And taste it, experience. You have within one of the practices that I love within Kashmirian Tantric, Kashmirian Tantra tradition, there's a practice where you take, you know, you wake up in the morning and you just take 10 seconds to completely experience those 10 seconds, what you are experiencing, whatever it is. And you wake up in your bed and, just completely taste that. And then you forget all about it. You get up, perhaps you take a bath or you take a shower. And then again, 10 seconds. It's just completely experience the shower, feel the warm water, or perhaps you take cold showers, feel the cold water touching your skin and completely feel that. Feel the vibrancy, feel the wetness, you know, just everything. 10 seconds up, you forget about it. Then you have your breakfast. And then for 10 seconds, again, you completely experience the taste of your piece of toast with thick butter on it. And just taste that. And then when you do that throughout the day, you arrive in the here and now. You arrive here. You come here into the sensation of what is here right now. And the moment we rest as awareness, we completely rest as awareness, we come also in the complete sensation of the here and now. It's very, very natural. So that's another entrance.
So we were talking about that a while ago, just saying touch base, you know.
Yeah.
At every transition in your day.
Yeah.
Have some kind of a touching base, which you're saying now, even 10 seconds of just completely being with it is a kind of a touching base.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, you know, a lot of people, you know, who I grew up to, my father would come home from work and he would take a glass of whiskey. You know, it's a way to come at ease, you know, to relax, you know, throw off the day. And you don't need whiskey. I mean, if you still want to drink whiskey, it's fine with me. I don't really care. But it's a sense like it's the same when you come home from your work and you just want to sit on the couch and just 10, 20 seconds, you just sense yourself. Like, oh, okay. Actually, I'm a little tired. There's tiredness here. Okay. Well, my mind is actually a little busy. I'm like, oh, presence is here right now. And then you fall into yourself. It's, you know, it's taking time.
Yeah, you'd be a hard one to do 10 seconds. You'd be at 10 minutes going toward 25.
You become, you know, when my experience of sitting, in the beginning, sitting, what I said before, it was challenging. Now I feel I sit with my deepest love, you know. Who doesn't want to sit with his or her deepest love? It's the beloved. I mean, why wouldn't you want to sit with the beloved?
Somehow
and
you
then
got
serve?
used to yourself, you know. You really are full of self-acceptance.
Yeah.
You know, whereas many of us, ourselves, is the last ones we want to sit with, you know.
Yeah.
And then
true.
how that happened, how that
Yeah.
you got such a high degree of self-acceptance, even from one that was very, very timid, because you said you couldn't even give a peep, you know, your voice wouldn't even come out.
Right.
And so then tends to be no self-acceptance in that, right?
Right, absolutely.
I mean, what is the dynamics of not of being so withdrawn?
Well, for me, it was a sense of not being good enough. For me, the process of you know, Adia asking me to teach, I was still very timid. And I had like, you want me to teach? I mean, so, and I completely took it to heart, you know. It's like, okay, I just go for it. Because I knew deep in my heart that it was true, that he had asked me, even though there was never a hair on my head that thought about teaching. So that process shattered a lot of old beliefs. It takes, you know, we probably have heard it, many teachers say, it takes absolutely everything to be yourself. You know, it takes kind of everything and nothing, but it takes everything to be yourself and to live as who you truly are. And for me, it was a process of a lot of meditation, therapy, a lot of retreats, silent retreats, sitting with teachers, and just steeping, you know, giving my whole life to love, really. That's really it. And then life takes care of it. Life would show me all the time what the next step was. I couldn't invent that. I just didn't know. And just completely trusting that.
Somehow we ought to have an emphasis on that, you know, because that's where the big doubt is. I think from so many people that think, okay, if I back off, if I rest, if I take extra time off, if I restructure my life, what's going to happen, you know? And there's a great belief on there that without stress and without anxiety and without discomfort, I would just sit on the couch and rot.
Yeah.
Of course, if you've ever tried it, it's pretty hard to stay on the couch that long, you know? But Marlies has mastered it.
Yeah, but life gives us challenges.
So life is too kind for that, right? Too kind to leave us in that never land.
You know, life, just look at your own life. Didn't life give you exactly what you needed? Not necessarily always what you wanted, but it gave you exactly what you needed. When everything is given on a golden platter, we tend to feel not forced to really look further. When we have challenges...
No, I bet we do, you know, because we reject all that stuff.
Right.
Because like how many people, I mean, that have really grown up very wealthy, and even, I mean, how many wealthy people lament that their kids went into drugs or even committed suicide? Yeah. You know, I mean, it doesn't work that easy.
Right, right.
So that's clear.
Yeah.
We know that nobody's better off than us just because they have a couple of bucks.
Exactly.
Right.
Now, I feel I got a lot of challenges in my life, and I feel each of them were invitations. And not that I thought about it, you know, 20, 30 years ago, this is an invitation. I just felt shit. I didn't feel very happy.
Not again, no way.
I was like, oh my God, and here it is again. But there was a drive in me. There was something in me. I just knew there was something. I didn't know what it was. And I knew there was something, and I called it it. And I knew when I had found it that from there, something would change. And that's how it happened. Something in me knew that how the way I grew up, the way our lives are, is upside down, is crazy. And I knew there's another way. I don't know how I knew, but I just knew. And that's what I followed. I had to, you know, it was kind of, there was no choice there. And I guess I was lucky, but a lot of people have that.
I'm kind of laid back. You know, I'm not really pushing life, but it brings me what's happening. And it tends to roll pretty fast.
Yeah.
And I've never really felt drawn to Vipassana or any kind of sitting or pulling back from the roll of it. But I mean, there's spaces in it where I could say, well, there's so many things I could do because I tend to have stacks of things around that I could do, you know, so that if I want. Worse, you know, a lot of it's hidden away on hard disks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And but lately I've been with a group that talk about isolations, like where you go live in a cabin for 30 days and just have a can of beans a day or something like that, you know. And I don't feel drawn to that either.
No, you don't have to. You know, we cannot know for each other what's good for you. You can feel in you and I can feel in me what naturally wants to move. And, you know, I felt moved to stay with a teacher for a year in India, and I was moved to be with Ajahn and do many retreats with him and sit with him. And I was moved to do whatever I did in this life. That was the natural movement here. And you can only find the natural movement in you as you can find only the natural movement in you. Nobody can tell you that.
I'm definitely moved to leave open spaces.
Yeah.
Leave open blotches, you know, and not just schedule myself with some kind of pre-existing ideas and say, oh, I could do this, So I suppose I would if I was in a business, but you guys are getting paid for your business. So then, okay, they're buying that time. But me, I mean, I don't want to just fill up all my time, so I'm leaving a lot of holes. You know, I don't schedule very far in advance.
Yeah.
So then I just go that far ahead and then see what falls in the hole. And
Yeah.
it's always something.
Yeah. Yeah, life will always fill up.
Right.
Yeah. But I also have found the more there's a natural resting as awareness, there's not much that I want to really do. I mean, it's not that I don't do anything. I have my interests. I have I love the garden, and I love to dance, and I love to offer the satsangs, and I really spend also quite some time alone as a recluse. And there's, I don't know, a lot of people experience this. There's just such deep love that comes out of this. You know, first it's a hardship. And there's a knowing, like, I want to be free, I want to be free. For me, it was, I want to be enlightened. So there was that drive, that fire. And now there's just such deep love. And the only thing I want to do, as far as I want to do anything, is just from this place of love, this place of being. I just offer, my life is not my life, it's God's life. And that's
really, are you ever jogged out of that? You're really not ever jogged out of that, is the way I see it.
What does it mean, jogged out?
Jogged is like shaken out of that. I mean, you're always on that.
I'm just always here.
Like they're your horses and you're the chariot, right? And wherever they go, you go.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel I follow orders. I feel that's all I do. I follow the orders of awareness. That's me. It's natural, you know. It's so simple, and it's so funny how it's taken so long, but I follow orders. I just only feel how life wants to move. What does life want here? What do I want? And what life wants, it really becomes the same thing. And that's what I listen to, because when I don't, it hurts. It just hurts. And more, even if I go off a little bit, it just hurts. It doesn't work. I go away from the flow that's naturally here. And we all have a natural flow. And the more our lenses are clean and cleared, the more we can be aligned with the flow that wants to flow as us, as here, as awareness.
See, I'm thinking that we said three things, because like one, I was talking about deconstructing a story.
Yeah.
And that several stories can fit the same situation, obvious, because brothers and sisters have different stories, and you and I have a different story of this room and this meeting, and I mean, that's obvious. And not to find the right story or the wrong story, but just to find that all stories are the wrong story in a way, you know.
No, mine is right.
They're just okay, deconstruct the story. The second is meet what's here.
Mm-hmm.
And so then we talked about meet what's here. The third we talked about is just rest. And just rest in a peace
awareness.
and as awareness,
Yeah.
in a peace and as awareness, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And then two more things we talked about I think are really important, you know, and that's one is that we don't need any ideas because thoughts come, you know, the right thought comes at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's an experiment. You have to wait for the right time. You know, you have to not putting a lot of thoughts on top of where this thought's going to come from, or you know, this guidance. Let's just call it guidance, not thoughts. You know, the correct guidance is.
It's like how I said. It's like orders, following orders, or guidelines. Sounds perhaps a little more kindly, but it's following orders.
Following guidelines.
Yeah.
So the guidance comes. You know, that's another thing. And then the last thing is that doing comes, or the action comes, you know. Action could come in a big way or a small way.
Yeah.
Now, nobody really believes that, you know. So many people don't believe that thoughts will come if I don't think them, and if I don't connect them with the dots,
Yeah.
you know. They don't haven't yet experienced that magical guidance that came.
Mm-hmm.
And then...
But you need to be really still inside to receive the guidance.
Exactly.
Because so many people think they receive guidance and it's just a mind fuck. And as it was sometimes for me too, and it takes really, and I say I'm kind of repeating myself here, it really takes everything. Utter total availability and utter and total willingness to be living as awareness and trusting that the guidance or whatever way this body-mind needs to move, that it will move as the one. And it's a practice. And I remember years ago how I would practice that was, for instance, I would drive in my car or bicycle on my bicycle, ride on my bicycle, and I knew I needed to go from A to B, but I would not think on forehand how I was going to get there. I was just going to either get in my car or ride on my bicycle and then let my steering wheel decide how I was going to ride. And it's really fun because I just didn't know. You know, for instance, when you're driving the car, there are different exits you can take to a certain place. And I would just keep driving and not decide on forehand where I was going to go. And then boom, my steering wheel would go a certain way. So it's fun to practice that way because then there's no concern. There's not a big decision I need to make. I mean, what can go wrong there? So
well,
then
all that can go wrong is you have to back up a little step and then go back. You know?
Exactly.
But that's okay, you know. If you don't, lambast yourself for missing the exit or something, or for driving a little bit extra, and you just say, "Oh, this is a little roundabout I'm doing," and if you can be okay with that, then you can actually participate in the experiment.
Exactly, and then you're playing. So then, when there's something in your life that happens, it's so-called needs a decision, then you can more in a playful way attend to that. Instead of like, oh, there's a decision I need to make. Oh, these are all the options. And instead of kind of like, I'm not going to go there. There's all these appearances out here. I'm not going to attend to the appearance in that way. I'm just going to rest here and see how life wants to move here.
So then you're actually experimenting, just moving with your intuition. And you're getting to trust it more and more and saying, well, this intuition, sometimes it takes me left, sometimes it takes me right.
Yeah.
I can always back think it and say, oh, if I only did this, if I only did that. But why? Why bother?
And you don't need to understand anything. You're just following guidelines.
Yeah.
And that's also so nice when you rest as awareness. I don't need to understand anything. If I need to understand something, it will come. Understanding will come. If I don't need to understand something, no understanding comes. And
then I'm more streamlined, right?
Yeah.
I can stay streamlined, or if I need it, it'll happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. The last thing I wanted to talk about was the doing, because we think that doing takes thoughts and planning, and then endless thoughts and planning, actually, and repetitive thoughts and planning, and run the loop again, because who knows, I might forget. I'm getting old, so keep running it, right?
Amnesia.
But I mean, something kind of neat happened the other day, because I was painting my back porch, my deck, and so I would paint 3 rails, and then I stand back and say, my God, that's really looking good. That is really sharp, And then I'd be thinking, wow, this place is really going to look good when I finish, and thinking of how the paint was satiny and how it was covering properly and this, that, and the other. And then finally, I would get myself to paint 3 more rails, see? And then I would back off again and start admiring and walking around and looking at it from the left, looking from the right. And I had this really total realization that whenever there was thoughts, there was no work. Whenever there was work, there was no thoughts, And that really, it doesn't take thinking to make action. It actually, thinking gets in the way of action. Right. And that was clear as crystal clear. And so that when we start to, I guess we could just say, if we can start experimenting with that and start looking at that and start being present while we're working and noticing, is thought going on? Is it really taking thought? I mean, do we have to say right over left, left over right when we tie our shoe, or does it just happen? It just happens, right? Yeah. So then we can start to trust those 2 things, that thoughts come, guidance comes when it's needed,
No.
And action comes as it needs to come. And then
Yeah,
then
it is like a completely knowing that all there is God. That all there is awareness. The only reality there is presence. And you rest as the I am. You just stay there. You put your tent there. And then the more you put your tent there and the more deeply know that that's all there is, then all doing will come from that. It won't come from between your ears. It will just come from the one movement. And I can't say this enough. It is a practice. It's learning. It's realizing. First we realize in little bits, oh wow, all there is God. All there is awareness. All there is reality. And then we forget about it. We go about our lives. And then again, like, oh shit, yeah, all there is presence. But then the more you get that all the love there is the love of that. And you are that. And then there comes a deeper and deeper trust to rest as that. And the resting as that starts happening. And then you will know from your own experience that all movement, all doing comes from that. And that takes practice. It doesn't help to hear me, listen to me 100 times, to read it in a book 100 times. Then you know it conceptually. That can be helpful. But then you need to do it. You need to become the authority you need to become the authority of your own experience and knowing deeply, I am that. That's all there is. And I need to move from that. No matter what anybody tells me to do differently. Even God tells you, no, don't do this. It's like, no, I know. This is how it wants to move here. And you just start trusting it. You become, as Buddha spoke, you become a lamp unto yourself. You can become your own authority. You take complete seat into your own beingness. And that beingness becomes the doingness in your life. And they're one and the same.
See, because like...
I get passionate.
Yeah, right, passionate. Yeah, but I mean, when you said once you have a little realization that all there is that love, well, that's already a huge advanced state,
Yeah.
Because at first we come to it and say, she's saying that, am I supposed to believe it, or do I believe it, or no, I don't believe that. And then,
well,
the practice, that's when the practice can come in. Or you can even rephrase the idea of a practice and say, the experiment, because let's say that your life is a science project and it's your laboratory where you experiment.
Yeah.
And that practice is your
Gathering
laboratory
data.
methods.
Yeah.
Your laboratory methods. And you want to be looking at what is happening in this life that is your project.
Right.
And so then that's your practice,
right.
in a way.
Absolutely. Kind of like gathering data.
Yeah, gather data.
And then
but you got to be here to gather data. Don't just simply be a theoretical.
Sleeping.
A theoretical physicist, He just pushes numbers around and is in his head, But you got to take some empirical data, which means presence, being here, and then just try it out.
Yeah.
Try some meditation, try some stillness, try some resting, or try no resting is what it is, actually. Sit down and don't rest.
Right.
Maybe that would be the way to say it. Sit down and don't rest.
Don't rest. No, or ask yourself, I love always to ask it this way, it's like, what is already still? What is already resting? That doesn't need your help.
I'm not even
there.
That's
always here. What is always resting?
Bingo.
And then naturally you can feel that, something lets go. It's just, that's what
that's
you
the Sangha.
are.
What is already resting? That's the Sangha. That's that you're going in sync with that's already here. Mm-hmm. And then you said something lets go.
Yeah.
We said that the other day when we were talking. It lets go.
It's lets go. Yeah, that's right.
And then we say, no, I thought I have to let go.
What about me?
I'm going to let go. No, it lets go.
Exactly. It lets go. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, naturally you become more alive, more vibrant and alive and full, and
there's nothing to hold you down. There's nothing to look down at.
No.
You don't have to avert your gaze.
Right.
You know, you're full on. You're just
Yeah.
full on in life, and
Yeah.
there's no reason to be embarrassed
Right.
or like
Right.
or
Right.
like concentrating on yesterday or.
No, and still, you know, I still find in my life too, sometimes there's still things coming up, you know. Sometimes here and there are little, you know, how do you say, little experiences of unhappiness or little experiences of questions, or that will be always there, or perhaps not. You know, I really don't know. I really don't care. But everything is now welcomed and received as love itself. And I know when years ago when people would talk about this, it's like, God, you know, can we use another word than love? But that's how my experience, how I experience it right now. Everything that happens in my life, it just comes into my consciousness. There's only one consciousness. There's only one power. There's only one. Do you get that? There's only one. So whatever bubbles up here is the one. So I take it to heart. Why would I not? It's not even a question anymore. Everything is taken to heart. And then it's held into the love, and it just rests, it dissolves, and it's taken in. Like ice cream, you know, you taste it like ice cream and it just melts in your mouth and becomes part of you. It's just all the same. And it's love.
Love. It's just love, right? Love. We could just say brightness.
Yeah.
You know, brightness, warmth. Yeah. Warmth.
Well, they're all different qualities,
yeah.
You know. I used to, for me, the main experience was silence. It was like everything for me was silence, 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 and peace. And then the more and more qualities that are experienced now as resting, as awareness, is a vibrancy, is an aliveness, is a clarity, wholeheartedness. You know, it's like a whole array of qualities. It's not just only silence. It's fullness. It's empty. It's like everything. It's infinite. It's like infinitude. You know, like Buzz Lightyear. Have you heard of Buzz Lightyear? And he talks about it's like this little what children play with. I forgot all this word. It's like it's from here to infinity. It's like that's how it is. From here to here, from infinity to infinity. It's like it includes absolutely, totally everything. And then you're just yourself, like these flowers. You know, they're themselves. And when you are yourself, you're just other. You're just beauty. There's nothing else there. I think that's it. That's all I want to say.
I think we get the message.
I think it's good.
How fantastic. So, Marlies, see, I mean, we really had a day of it.
Yeah, we did.
We can express ourselves, we can repeat ourselves, and it just sounds fresh every time, at least to us.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's not the tea we're drinking, so don't worry about that.
It is. No.
We're not espousing anything weird or any kind of experiential, you know. I mean, we're just saying simplicity, like we said in the beginning. It's just this. And then it's all the fullness is just.
Well, I want to, yeah, it's kind of nice what you mentioned about experiential. What I want to say to people, trust your experience in the moment. Trust your experience and then let go of your experience. Be here and then another experience comes. The experiences come and go. Just trust them. Take them to heart. Some of them are milestones and some of them are not. And then let them go and just know what's left. What's left is always the field of awareness. And you are that field, that incredible immensity of unknown. Just dare to fall into that and let that live your life. And then you will live your life as that huge, immense unknown. Those words doesn't even cover it. Because the more I fall into the unknown, the more I just don't get what really the unknown is. So enjoy yourselves. Love this life that's given to you. It's so precious. It's so precious.
Thank you, Marlies. Thank you from all of us.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
And thank you, everybody, for tuning in again. And check out Marlies' movements on her website, marliescocheret.com.
Yeah, come and join some of the satsangs and retreats, and you're so welcome.
You specialize in talking to the ladies too, right?
I am. Yeah, I do some satsangs for women only. Most satsangs are for men and women. I love men, I love women, I love everyone. I just do both. And then I do special sacred sexuality retreats for women only, where we bring silence and the body together. And then silent retreats, and also working with couples.
So, participate. You'll really enjoy it. You'll imbibe Marlies. You'll love it. Okay. So, here we go
Richard.
again. What a life, huh?
Yeah.
I just love it.
Yeah, me too.
What could be more fun than this? I'm a total addict.
Yeah. Yeah,
no, just like you said, you know, I should do the same thing. See, instead of asking people to teach, I'll ask people to be impresario, you know, to be to host a TV show. Mm. Except that I'm so greedy, I want to do them all. So.
You're terrible. Well, thank you so much
for
having me here and having me here in Chicago. It's been really wonderful.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.